What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Heat Report. Welcome back to a brand new video where we continue the series of what we had started by recapping / reviewing every Miami Heat's players season. And so far we have done the two all-stars of this team, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, as well as Goran Dragic and Victor Oladipo. So hopefully you guys enjoyed those two videos. If you guys have not seen those two videos, make sure you guys pause this video, go back to that, and go check that one out, because those are the first two videos of the series. This is the third video where we talk about the three players who really had their breakout seasons as NBA players last year, and those are none other than Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn. So the reason I combined these three players into one video is because I think they all had similar career trajectories. I know Tyler is a lot younger than K-Nunn and Duncan, but they all kind of had their breakout seasons. Tyler and Duncan came into the league together. Tyler and K-Nunn came into the league together. Duncan was a two-way player at the beginning, but kind of, found his footing in the NBA the same year that Tyler and K-Nunn came into the league. So that's why I grouped these three together, because they're kind of like they were our young guys of the team as far as experience is concerned, apart from the rookie we drafted this year and the two-way players we have on our team. So these three guys are going to be the focus of today's video: Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn. Make sure y'all leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what you guys thought about the last video, what you guys think about this video, what you guys think about these guys' futures, because they are inexperienced players as far as NBA years go. They're still young players in this league, so they have a lot to grow and a lot to learn. So make sure you guys leave your comments down below if you guys are OGs. If you guys are new to the channel, though, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We drop daily bangers on this channel, so y'all do not want to miss it. And let's get right into it without further ado. So Tyler Herro. Where can I start with Tyler, man? He's a very controversial player, not only in the Heat fan base, but in the NBA fan base. A little bit overhated. I have to say I don't even want to say a little bit. He's very overhated by a lot of NBA fans. I hate when people are saying that Tyler Herro, we did not trade Tyler Herro for James Harden, when it was clearly the pick situation that prevented that trade from happening. Yeah, a lot of head scratching things that NBA fans are saying about Tyler, but haters gonna hate. As far as Tyler is concerned about what he did this season, though, it was a very up and down season for Tyler, man. It was a roller coaster of a season. I really thought that, and a lot of people thought that this year was the year that he was gonna really break out. I know he came into the league and took it by storm in the playoffs last year in the bubble, but I really thought that this year he was going to find his footing and become that number 3 option on our team, especially him starting at the beginning of the season. He started at the point guard position. Obviously that did not really work out too well, but I really thought that he endured a lot of adversity, had to come off the bench, suffered a lot of injuries. He missed quite a bit of games, and wasn't really able to find his rhythm until the latter part of the season, where he was, I think it was like he had scored 20 in like 5 games in a row, and he was really finding his footing. But in the playoffs, kind of disappeared a little bit too. I have to admit, Tyler Herro did not play that well in the playoffs whatsoever. And yeah, Tyler is a very interesting player to judge. He is one of the rare guys on our team that is not currently a free agent, so he's going to be on this team next year no matter what, unless we decide to trade him, which is still a possibility. I do think that Tyler is a guy that can develop into an all-star caliber player. I know people will laugh at that and say I'm crazy, but I really do think that Tyler has the potential to be an all-star. I don't know if he's going to be a superstar on this team, because he is playing behind Jimmy and Bam, but I do think he can reach all-star level status. I see his game very like a lot of people like to say D-Book, but I've been saying D-Book is a very, very great player in this league already. Like what D-Book did in his second year is a lot better than what Tyler is doing in the second year. So I think the D-Book comparison is probably what he can be at his best, but I think that's a pretty lofty comparison For a guy that let's be honest, he endured a lot of criticism this year. So I do think that Tyler Herro can be a Jamal Murray type player, is very, very, very valuable in this league. He doesn't have to be, a superstar on this team. All he has to be is a star in his role. He just has to be that consistent third option. That's what I'm asking from Tyler next year. He has to be that consistent third option that we can rely on alongside Jimmy and Bam. If the coaching staff is this serious about keeping him on the team, then we have to see him in the starting lineup. I don't know for who it's going to be. We still have to see how the roster, shakes up. We're going to talk about the next two guys very soon. And the next two guys are actually the people who were starting for us for majority of the season. So Tyler might have to replace one of them. But I do think it's critical that we see him in the starting lineup. We cannot see him off the bench for his whole Heat career, because the amount of praise that the coaching staff has had for him since he was drafted, the work ethic that everyone's talking about, the potential that everyone's talking about, we can't really see that if he's not, starting, if he's not playing significant minutes. I want to see Tyler. I just want to see everything. I just want to see whatever he has. Throw him out there, throw him into the fire. Obviously, it didn't work for a little bit when he threw him at that point guard position, but it's growing pains. He's gonna have to, bounce back from his sophomore slump, some of the sophomore slumps he had, and he's going to have to become, like I said, a consistent third option on this team that can deliver and pick up the slack when Jimmy is not scoring or Bam is not scoring. We need a third guy who's going to guarantee us points, and Tyler, I think, has that potential, and I think that's the type of player, if Tyler's kept on this team long term, that he can be. As far as evaluating the season that he had, I thought he improved. I don't know if you guys remember, but in that first preseason game against the Pelicans, he looked really, really good. And he was starting, I think, at point guard. So I do think that, there is a future for him in the starting lineup on this team. I know a lot of people, myself included, said that he's not a point guard, which he's not. But if he plays that position, that doesn't really mean he has to be a point guard. You can just have Jimmy be a point guard, or a guy we sign in free agency be a point guard, and just let Tyler score the ball, because that's what he is. I hate when a lot of teams try to play players out of their role. Tyler is a guy who's a scorer. Playing him as a facilitator is not a good idea. So you can play him at that position, but don't ask him to be a facilitator, because that's what he's not. He's a guy who can flat out get buckets, because that's what he is. He's a bucket. So I think Tyler has a tremendous potential, and I think he has a future on this team. But it just matters what depends on what the coaching staff decides to do. If a big fish is out there, then maybe they're gonna have to pull the trigger on a trade that will have to send Tyler away. But I spent a lot of time on Herro, so let's get to the other two players. Duncan Robinson had some very interesting comments to say about the team in his interview. I don't know if you guys watched that, but go check it out. It's on YouTube somewhere. But yeah, Duncan Robinson had his exit interview or something like that, and he was talking about his free agency. He was talking about how what his priorities were. He wanted to be somewhere where he fit. He wanted to be in a winning environment. He has love for this team. He's enjoyed his time here. He's he just said the generic answers that a lot of people would say. A lot of people took in Duncan Robinson saying, I want first and foremost, I'm looking for a fit, as he's leaving. Like, first of all, he's a restricted free agent. I don't think people understand what that means. Even if he signs a deal with someone else, we still have the opportunity to match it. I hope people understand that. Now, I know some things have come out before. A couple of weeks ago, I think Woj said that Duncan is eligible for, a pretty big deal, up to $20 million per year is something that Woj said. And a lot of people were like, nah, we don't need Duncan for $20 million. That's an overpay. We cannot pay him this much money. There's no way. Just get another guy on the market that can shoot the ball or whatever. Listen, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, but here's what I have to say to everyone who's saying this. First of all, I'm a big advocate that we have to re-sign Duncan Robinson. He is one of the biggest parts of this team. I don't really think people understand how big of a part of our offense he is. The man in the Milwaukee Bucks series was getting hounded. He could not take any shots after game one. Game one, it's no coincidence that when he had his best game of the series, we almost won that game. After that, the Bucks played him so tightly that we couldn't really find any offense going because he was just getting smothered out there. You know, the dribble handoffs were not opening up because there was no passing avenues for Bam or anyone like that to pass the ball to him to get him clean looks. He is a huge part of our offense. And I know people will be like, that's replaceable. Just get another shooter out there on the market. How much do you think shooters go for? Like, if you want to get a guy who's on the same caliber as a Duncan Robinson, unless it's a guy who's like Wayne Ellington, who's really, really old, or someone like that, you're not really going to get a shooter for less than $15 million. You're not going to. In this day and age, shooting is the most valued asset in the NBA. Whether you like it or not, players like Joe Harris, who's currently on $20 million a year, he got paid for a 4-year deal worth $80 million. There's a reason that he's paid this much money. It's because his shooting is not only good because he can shoot the ball, but it's also because teams have to respect it so that they don't help off him when a guy like KD or Kyrie or James Harden is driving to the rim. That's what makes him so valuable, is not only his shooting, but it's his gravity as well. And that's what Duncan Robinson, the impact he has on this team. So Duncan Robinson, I think, is a guy who we must try to re-sign at all costs. Unless it's like over $20 million, I'm taking Duncan Robinson. You know, if we have to pay him 20, I know this might be far-fetched. You guys might disagree. We need Duncan Robinson on this team. I don't think people understand the impact he has. And people will be like, man, we can just find another guy. He's replaceable. Y'all were the same fans saying that about Jay Crowder. And look how much we're missing him. So, you know, I do not want to hear, you know, I mean, like I said, you guys are entitled to your own opinions. You know, I'm not trying to bash anyone, but it's just kind of baffling to me how we have sitting like in our lap could become the greatest shooter in Heat history if he stays with this team long term. And I know we had Ray Allen, but I'm talking about breaking 3-point records. He's already broken past 200 threes in a season twice in this franchise history. That's more than anyone in this franchise history. No one has broken past 200 threes in a season twice. Duncan is the first one in Miami Heat history to do that. So we have a special asset there. And I hope people do not take for granted his impact of this on this team. You know, even if you guys want to get someone like a Tim Hardaway Jr. out there, he's going to be around the same price as well. So I don't really get people saying we can sign one in free agency, replace him with someone else if he wants this much money, because everyone else is going to want the same money too. Every other, you know, knockdown shooter is going to want the same amount of money too. And if people are saying that we don't need, you know, his shooting in the lineup, that's false. Look at the elite championship teams. Look at the teams that have won championships in the past. They all have They all have shooting. They all have an elite specialist on their team. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope from last year. You know, obviously the Splash Brothers. You had a J.R. Smith in the starting lineup in 2016. You have a Seth Curry on the Sixers. You had Danny Green on the Raptors. You have Joe Harris right now on the Brooklyn Nets. It's no coincidence that all these teams that are contending teams, Joe Ingles, like all these teams have shooting. They have an elite shooter. They have a specialist on their team that you cannot leave open. That when the main guy is driving to the rim, he commands so much attention that no one can help. So Duncan Robinson is so important to this team, and I do think we should re-sign him. As far as how his season went, I thought it was a bit up and down. Started off with the slump, but I thought as soon as the trade deadline happened, we saw a switch flipped. I thought Duncan Robinson was extremely excellent after the trade deadline, especially in that first Portland Trailblazer game. He was knocking down all his threes. He just looked like a different player as soon as the trade deadline ended. So I still think he's a big part of this team. And to everyone who's saying that Max Strus can replace him, listen, stop trying to put like expectations on these guys. Let Max Strus be Max Strus. You know, Max Strus, I think, has potential to be a good player for this team. But let's pump the brakes a bit. Max Strus has not really shown us enough that he can become one of the best shooters in the NBA. Yeah, he can shoot the ball, but what is he shooting? Like 33% from three this year? Like, where's the evidence? I mean, Max Strus, this is no knock on Max Strus. I think Max Strus is a good player, but we have to stop putting expectations on these guys. that, simply may not be able to fulfill them. Like, let Max Strus be Max Strus. This is why a lot of fans think Tyler Herro is overrated, because a lot of Heat fans, and I'm not calling any of you guys out, but there was a lot of Heat fans that were like, oh, we got a superstar future, blah, 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 blah. And in an eventual sophomore slump, which is going to happen to any rookie, any sophomore in this league, people did not take that into account and just went off of what people had said about Tyler Herro, of how good he can be or how much potential he has. And this is what happens. This is what happens when you don't let players be themselves and when you set expectations on these players. Just let them be themselves, man. Let them be themselves. K Nunn is the last player that we're going to be talking about very briefly. K Nunn is a guy who's also restricted. He was one of the unsung heroes of this team, man. K Nunn was one of the unsung heroes of this team. In the regular season especially. In the playoffs, a little bit rusty, I will admit. Like I said, I love K Nunn when he's driving to the rim, not when he's spotting up for threes. I don't think that's K Nunn's game. I think K Nunn is one of the best finishers on this team, so I think that's his strong suit. I don't know if we're going to be able to re-sign him, but I would love to have him back on like a $10 to $15 million contract. But I do think that if we don't re-sign him, I do think that he is a guy that's probably more replaceable than Duncan, because he's not as big a part of our offense as Duncan Robinson is. But I thought K Nunn had a really, really strong season. I thought he really picked up the slack when a lot of people were struggling. He was one of the most consistent players on this team. So shout out to K Nunn, man. He's just so even-keeled, so level-headed. And I do hope that he has a future with this team. I do hope that we re-sign him back. But I just don't know if we're going to be able to, because we're already talking about re-signing Duncan. I don't think there's any way that the Heat let Duncan Robinson go. You still have other free agents. You have to figure out that team option on Goran Dragic, is whether Iguodala is retiring or whether he's going to be coming back or not, because he also has a team option. You have to figure out what to do with Dwayne Dedmon, who we're going to be talking about in future videos. Same with Ariza, same with Bjelica, Udonis Haslem. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen. Plus, you have the opportunity to sign some free agents like a Kawhi Leonard or some other people that I'm going to be talking about in my free agency preview. So the Heat front office has their work cut out for them, but I think that they can figure this out. I just think that they have to make the smart decisions. So that's probably going to be it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I did talk about the three guys that have really broken out over the past couple years: Tyler, Kendrick, and Duncan. And hopefully they have, great careers, whether it's with this team or whether it's not with this team. Tyler is going to be part of this team unless he gets traded. But with Duncan and Kendrick, if one of them is let go, I wish them all the best. And they are very, very significant players, and they will be significant players to whatever team they end up on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all later as always. If you guys are new, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. If you guys are OGs, make sure y'all like the video and comment down below. Y'all know the drill, man. I'll see y'all later as always. Peace.